Hi everybody and welcome to Safe Diving. So it's time to put your speculation tinfoil hats on because I'm diving into Reddit and the scuba diving forums looking for information on Garmin's follow-up dive computer to their Descent Mk2 dive computer. And there are a lot of unconfirmed rumours online, so take kind of all of this with a big old pinch of salt. But who doesn't love a good conspiracy theory? So the Mark 1 turned quite a few heads when it first came out, but Garmin aren't really known for their scuba diving computers, so it sold, but not in huge numbers. It had some incredible features though, a step above most traditional dive computers because Garmin are huge and they have all the technology for heart rate sensors and GPS from their hiking computers. All they really had to do was put a better pressure seal on it and some scuba diving software, a pressure sensor, and they've got themselves a dive computer. The Mark 1 is a smart piece of kit. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the top of the range titanium version because they put that weird kind of blue detailing around the bezel, but when I had a chance to play with one, it was a very smart and it was very, very easy to use. It ticked most of the boxes. The only thing that it didn't really have was air integration. Not a big deal for a lot of scuba divers, but wireless air integration is quickly becoming a standard feature on a lot of dive computers, especially at this kind of premium price range where the Mark 1 was hitting. And this was one thing that I relayed back to Garmin, and I'm pretty sure that quite a few other professional divers and even just their customers said too. The last time I spoke to Garmin in person, we were talking about the Mark 1, and I didn't even bring up a successor, but we were just kind of talking about me selling the Mark 1, but they were so adamant that there was no Mark 2 and there's nothing on the horizon, and it was safe to invest in the Mark 1, that they brought up the Mark 2 twice, which kind of told me that there was definitely a Mark II on the way and they needed to sell as many Mark Is as possible. Now that was last year. Now obviously a few things have changed since last year, but so the Garmin are clearly well on the way to making a Mark II because this photograph has arisen of a Garmin branded transmitter fitted to a dive right regulator. Well, Garmin know a thing or two about making transmitters, but they usually fit to your shoes or something and they measure how many steps you've taken. And the only reason why they put their name on a transmitter that fits onto a scuba diving regulator is for a new dive computer. One diver claims to have heard rumour of dive masters talking about Garmin testing out an air integrated dive computer in the waters around Hawaii, which is where this picture has come from. But Garmin are obviously keeping it all hush hush for the time being. Right now they've been going through a rather testing time in the news and their focus has been elsewhere obviously, but let's see what we can see from this one single photo. So the transmitter is fitted to a dive right regulator that seems to be in a twin configuration with a second dive right first stage opposite it with its own different transmitter. The main transmitter looks like it's a little bit touch bigger than most transmitters and has the characteristic screws around the base of the body that pelagic transmitters have. And the transmitter opposite it looks like a traditional pelagic transmitter, which some have speculated that they're testing their new transmitter against the existing competition, which would make a lot of sense, testing to see the accuracy and if there's any kind of interference when they're so close to one another. The pelagic transmitter is a good foundation to emulate because they pair for life, and Garmin have probably worked with pelagic to develop their own transmitter, which would be a great thing because anybody with an oceanic, aqualung or a shearwater transmitter would be able to pair it with a Garmin. Again, speculation right now, but it would be lovely if that were the case. Another eagle-eyed diver has done some hunting around online and found this form that names the Garmin Descent Mk2, testing the unit for EMV communications. Nothing to do with tank transmitters, but it kind of confirms the name Descent Mk2. Another rumor online is that the US Navy has shown some interest in the Mark II, but wanted them to make some kind of changes, and this could be what's taking up development time and resources, but who knows, speculation, pinches of salt all over the place. The big question is, when are we likely to get the product reveal, or at least some official statement about the Descent Mk2? Well, normally something like this would be announced at DEMA, which was supposed to take place in New Orleans in November this year, but that's been cancelled. But DEMA is actually planning some kind of conference in September, a kind of a digital conference. We of course have Boot Show in January, which Garmin are pretty used to attending because of their marine range of equipment, and then we have the Go Diving Show in February, but DEMA is traditionally when a lot of new gear is actually announced, so we'll probably hear something pretty substantial in September if I was a betting man. So the biggest sign will be if you start to see the Mark 1 for sale at greatly discounted rates online, or if they're just all out of stock mysteriously. But what do you guys think? Do you have a Mark 1? How have you found it? Some divers have reported quite a few bugs and issues with it. Do you think the Mark 2 will bring Garmin into the big leagues with scuba divers and make Garmin a scuba diving brand? They were doing their best with dive centers. One of our biggest concerns was that you would just find them selling the Descent directly to Amazon and the likes, and dive centers can't really compete with Amazon. But Garmin were actually quite sensible. They limited themselves who they could sell to because they understood that the skill and expertise of dive centers was required to be able to sell and maintain their scuba diving computer. You basically had to tick all of the boxes to be able to sell the Descent. You had to have an instructor work for you. You had to be able to offer cylinder fills and quite a few other things. So hopefully that won't change. The Mark 1 is already getting a bit blurred online with foreign sites kind of offering it up, but such is the joy of online retail right now. But yeah, have you heard anything about the Mark II that you can share? Have you been on any dive boats in Hawaii recently and seen a Garmin printed on any scuba diving equipment? Let's discuss below. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.